Hey everybody, welcome to Adam Makes Beer, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be getting back to my roots and I'm going to be doing some home brewing. I'm going to be home brewing with the awesome Anvil system. This is the first time that I've worked with this equipment and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be getting together with Ben and some of his home brewing buddies, and we're going to be making an amber ale. We're going to be diving into all the awesome features with the Anvil system. We're going to talk recipe formulation. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're not going to want to miss it. Cheers. Okay, so there's base malt and then the specialty malt is separate?
Right here. Yep.
Oh, that is, and is there crystal malt too?
Yep. Got both of them in
Awesome.
here. Yep. And the
Okay,
double
good.
pie is the 80, and this is the 60 right here.
Okay, so let's go with this. What we're gonna do is, we're gonna go, so this is basically built for like a 5-gallon
Okay.
batch, what I gave you.
Yeah.
So let's shift if you're okay with this. And what we'll do is, we're gonna cut this batch in half.
Yep.
And then what you can do is you can brew another batch of it as well.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
we'll do that, and then that will fit perfectly in this.
Okay.
Because this fermenter is on like the 2.5, 3-gallon side.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about that is one, you're gonna get some reps with working with the system, right? So we can go ahead today and dive into this and do kind of our first turn with it.
Okay.
And then the second time you use it, you have 2 packets of yeast, right?
Yes.
You can throw one in the fridge,
Yep.
and that can be for the second batch.
Okay.
So once this one is done, you get it into bottles. I say roll
right into the next
another
one.
batch.
Yep,
Roll another
absolutely.
batch. So what we're gonna do is with this whole thing is we're gonna start working with the equipment, figure that out. We are gonna scale down this recipe to the 2.5-gallon range.
Okay.
And then what I'm gonna be doing is I'm just gonna be kind of coaching and teaching along the way.
Yep.
And just kind of explain what's happening process-wise.
Perfect.
Because the interesting thing is, especially when you start working with stainless can look more intimidating than it needs to.
Yeah.
It can look like a rocket ship. And so you're like, well, I'm not sure what to be doing. But
Yeah.
it's all the same as less involved equipment. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch to a 2.5-gallon sparge method. And what sparge is, it means we're gonna be taking a separate volume of water and heating that up. And then we're gonna get the initial mash going.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna pull the basket up and that's gonna drain. And
Yep.
then sparge means that sparge is sprinkle. And so we're gonna pour some additional hot water on top of that to continue to rinse color, flavor, and sugar out of that remaining grain.
Sounds perfect.
So that's what we're gonna be doing. So let's start getting our liquid in here for a 2.5-gallon sparge method. So we're gonna be cutting our grain in half, so we're gonna be using 5 pounds of what we have today. So we're gonna need 2.9 gallons of strike water. This is what strike water is. It's this initial water that you're gonna be making your mash in.
Okay.
Let's get some action here, baby.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can just go ahead and put 3 gallons in there, man.
Okay. And what we'll probably try to do is just split up who's doing tasks and stuff so everyone can kind of get involved a little bit.
Yeah,
if
definitely.
that's okay. So,
Definitely.
Josh, I'm putting you to work too.
What is nice about this thing is the instruction manual is actually instructive, which is sometimes unusual for instruction manuals. But one of the things that's nice with this Anvil system is there's tables for everything. So we're gonna be going and doing a 2.5-gallon batch sparge method, which says we need 5 pounds of grain and just shy of 3 gallons of strike water. But it has all the different types of ways that you can brew with this Anvil system. So then we're gonna have to figure out how to turn it on and adjust that temperature. Because what we're doing in this step is we're going to have our hot water, we're gonna be adding our malt, and we're looking at a temperature range. If we can get this thing within a temperature range of anywhere really from 146 plus or minus a little up to 160, the enzymes in the base malt will convert all that exposed starch to sugar. The yeast is going to eat the sugar. We get beer.
Yep.
Okay. So that's what's happening. That's what's happening here. So we want the strike water temperature to be at, according to this, 158. So let's see. if we can dig in. Oh, look at you. This guy's clever.
I was guessing, you know. Usually you hit the plus button, things go up.
I like it. I like it. So what we had to do was we had to hit the power button here until it started flashing, and then we hit the plus button to put it up to 100% because we are going to want full heating pressure, full heating power going to this unit to get this water up to where we want it to be. As our sparge water is, or not sparge water, as our strike water is heating up right here, we are going to, what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to start prepping some of the other things that we can be using during the brew day. And so right now we're going to be cleaning out one of these 5-gallon buckets because I'm a big fan of getting that clean and getting all of your clean parts that you're going to be using later in the process into sanitizer. Today we're going to be using Star San, which is a throwback for me. I haven't used it in a while. It's a sanitizer that I really, really love. And we're going to be using PBW as well on the cleaning side. So remember, you always want to be cleaning before sanitizing. And yeah, we're going to get all of our smalls and different things that need to be cleaned and sanitized for this brew day going while the strike water is heating up. Yeah, and then we're going to keep rolling.
Yeah, so what's the biggest difference between PBW and Star San?
Okay, so one is a detergent,
yep,
and one is a sanitizer.
Okay.
And so you're going to be able to clean everything with that, and then you can sanitize everything
that makes sense.
With the Star San.
Okay.
And then one of the reasons I asked, I'm a huge fan of spray bottles. Of getting some Star San mixed up in there and then being able to apply it to different smalls, different things like that. What we will be doing is on the fermenter side is before we get ready to put wort in there, we're going to be making sure that every surface that is going to contact beer is going to be hit with that sanitizer. All right, hey, so we are only about 10 degrees away from mashing in because the Anvil has us up to 149 degrees F right now, and our set point is 158 F. If I'm on top of my game, there's going to be Celsius below, but we'll see how on top of my game I am. So right now, the only thing that we have going on with the Anvil is we have water inside of it, and it's heating up. And so this goes inside. So this is the grain basket, and you're going to be able to see one of my favorite things. This is unique to Blickman style gear. I'll show you the top and bottom of this. This is the false bottom, which is going to be working as a screen to separate the wort that we're going to be making in the mash and the grain that's going to stay within here, okay? So we're putting that in, and then because we also have the awesome recirculation pump, this little it wouldn't be perforated. What would this be, gentlemen? There's holes in the top of it. It's not perforated. Let's go with perforated. I feel good with perforated.
It's like a mesh.
Mesh, yeah. It's kind of like a colander, like a ineffective colander. But for our purposes, it's effective because we're going to be recirculating not directly into this basket. You can see the other side of this pump, it would be kicking out liquid, in a stream like that, and it would be going straight through the mash bed, and we don't want that. And so we're going to be recirculating on top of this, which is going to allow the liquid to spread out and kind of shower down back on top of the grain bed. All right? So we'll get this installed, and we're going to be ready to mash in here anytime now. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get this basket into the Anvil. And do you want to tell everybody what your name is?
Hi, I'm Kevon.
Kevon. All right, let's go ahead and set this grain basket in here now, and we can see that there's feet on the bottom of it that will keep that up off the bottom of the Anvil, and then there's a hook on the back, there it is, boom. And that is where we're going to be able to hang that to allow that wort to run through and when we get ready to do the sparge. So I believe we can get that in there. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. Do you want me to take this off?
Yeah, you can take that portion off for right now because we're going to need to be able to get the grain in there. Yep, and then just drop it right in. Sweet. Awesome. Okay, now we are going to get ready to start stirring that grain in. I was actually wondering if putting the basket in right then was gonna like knock the temperature down, but it didn't. So we're gonna be good to roll here. You wanna tell everybody who you are?
Hey, I'm Josh.
Hey, Josh. All right, so Josh is going to be mashing in on this today. And we have our base malt, which is Maris Otter, which is one of my favorite British malts. And we're going to be pouring this into this basket here. Get about half of it in and then stop. And then give it a stir. And then we have the master whisk here. This whisk is no joke. And then just make sure you're all the way out of the bottom on it too. Great. And then you can get the rest of that in there. And what I love about Maris Otter base malt, it's an English base malt that has a little bit more character than some, I don't know, like domestic two-row or Pilsner malt. We're still gonna be kind of looking in the range of like the bready flavors, but this is gonna be maybe a little bit more nutty, a little bit more toasty, but still you can get a yellow beer out of this. So we're gonna be stirring that in. And then the recipe that we're working with today uses two different crystal malts. One is Crystal 60 and a Crystal 80. One of the reasons that I like to split those up is you can get a little bit of a range of flavor. Just kind of talking a little bit of recipe development right now. So about half of each one of those.
Okay.
And we're doing a little eyeballing today, folks. It is what it is. So because we actually have enough grain for him to do 2 batches today, or one today and one another time. One of the things that's interesting is every time the temperature of this gets out of range, it gets down to 157, that heater on the bottom just kicks back on again. It's a very cool feature. I've not used it before, and that's really nice. So we have our 2 crystal malts going in, and then we're also going to have a little touch of roast malt going in there as well. We are making an amber ale today, and sometimes with an amber ale like this, I like to pull a little bit of color with a small amount of roast malt because I think that it can make a beer that's more drinkable, potentially a little bit drier than making a beer that uses all crystal malt, all non-fermentable, it's all unfermentable sugar in that crystal malt. So you can kind of be pushing up the residual sweetness of your beer. When you use a little bit of roast malt, you can get that color up without a whole bunch of additional sweetness. Sweet, we're splitting those up. How does this look? Ooh, baby. This is cool.
Yeah.
This is sweet, man. This is a sweet system.
I always just love the smell of the grains as
Oh
they
man,
add
it's
in.
the best. It's the best. Especially you get that, and what I love about that Maris Otter is you do have, oh yeah, man, that's sweet. Yeah. Then a little bit of that roast malt in there. Is this the Carafa 2 or the Carafa Special 2 off the top?
Craft 2.
Carafa 2, sweet. We can get that stirred in.
Smells good.
This is so awesome. It is, I've been making beer for 20 years, homebrew and professional. It never gets old. Like it's still just the best. It's still just the best. Okay, great. So you're in a good spot there. Let's make sure to tap that till we can get all that grain out of there. You're looking like a pro there, man. Teasing that stuff out of there. I love it. Okay, so we are going to set up this recirculation loop here briefly. We're going to go ahead and get that colander cap on top of it, and then we're going to set up the pump, and I'll show you that here in a second. Okay, so we are going to get kind of this little recirculation mesh topper on the grain basket here, because we're going to be starting this pump up before too long. And go ahead and just sit real loosely right on top like that, and then you can put the lid on. And then you can see this lid has over here a port that we're going to be able to hook up this recirculation with, okay? So after we allow that mash to rest for a few minutes. We're gonna get some liquid through that pump and then turn that pump on real slowly and start recirculating the mash. All right, so I believe that this pump for the Anvil system is self-priming, but I know different systems have different types of pumps. And what I mean by self-priming is there's no liquid in this, and then you can just turn it on and it'll pull that liquid through. Some are not self-priming, so that means you need to go get some liquid through into the head of that pump in order to start moving liquid. So I'm gonna show you just generally how I would do that in a situation like this. All I need to be doing is getting liquid from here into the head of the pump. I don't need to get it all the way through the end of this. So what I'm gonna do is, this should be, I have a little clamp here that will allow me to handle flow rate for this. And so I'm gonna crack this and we're gonna see some work come down here into the head of the pump. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
There's my liquid, boom. Okay. We can go ahead and feed this up into here. And then what I'm gonna do is, I am going to restrict this flow at first because I don't want it blasting through. Because the whole idea when you're doing something like this is you don't want to be putting a bunch of pressure on that false bottom. Because if you start drawing really hard off of that, you can compact that grain bed. That's what we're trying to prevent right here. But we do want to be drawing gently enough to recirculate it, okay? All right, so you can see right here, guys, I have a fair amount of liquid coming through. So I'm going to restrict it.
Cut it back to a trickle.
Yeah. Do you see this flow rate that I have on here right now? I'm using kind of this thumb screw to restrict this pump. And you noticed before as well that now that there's liquid in this pump, it's not grinding.
Yeah.
And not that that doesn't mean it's not self-priming or anything like that, but conceptually that's what we're talking about there.
Okay.
Pump's running nice and happy. This is going to continue to maintain this temperature right here. I am going to show you this flow rate that I'm using right now because we are utilizing this pump. It's circulating back over the top of like this little colander and spreading it out. The idea here is that we're going to be not compressing that grain bed by drawing too quickly, and we're just going to be recirculating it back to the top because we want to give this thing time to have full conversion. And this is also going to help us generate a little bit more clarity or get grain, husk, different things like that kind of redistributed so we can have clear work when we do end up pulling that basket. Today's Brew Day is brought to you by my friends at Blickman Engineering. Starting a brewery is a big step. Blickman Engineering is there to help. Since 2006, they've equipped hundreds of nano breweries for success. Their new 3.5 barrel Pro Surface electric brewing system cuts maintenance and saves at least 30 minutes per brew with powerful under kettle heating. From 1 to 15 barrel brew houses to keg washers and grain mills, Blickman has what you need. Ready to go pro? Contact Phil or Tom at proseries@blickmanengineering.com.
You gotta
Now,
jump back in.
what you're not going to want to do with this is, I always, and maybe this is just a habit from me using the type of pumps that I use on the pro side. Those pumps always need to be primed. You don't want to, and then the other thing is you don't want to deadhead them. Okay, and by deadhead meaning, I wouldn't want to close this clamp all the way or this one and just leave this thing running.
Right.
With nowhere for it to go.
You're killing the engine.
Yes, I like to kill this, close that, and then we still have our little closed system here. We might actually be able to get
Just
a little
sample
drop
from
or
here.
two off of this right here. So I'll pull this lid for you, and then we can see first if I can get a little sample onto that off of this. I think I did.
You did. I saw stuff.
I think I did. All right, let's see if we're making some sugar here. So this is all that is. You get it on that, you flip it over.
Okay.
I usually will try to dry that off, and then you can see sometimes there's little bubbles. That won't really influence it too much, but sometimes I do like to kind of flick it and see if I can clear that thing up.
Okay.
Natural light might get you further than,
Yeah. Oh, I was having a little trouble with my glasses too.
okay, so we're moving. You can go ahead and see in there. What are you seeing for your reading?
I'm looking at the blue area, right?
Yeah, where's it's a fuzzy line right now. What does the line look like?
7.5 roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere
Let
around
me
there.
run a calculation. Okay.
It's pretty fuzzy, but it looks roughly in the 7.5, between the 5 and the 10 somewhere.
Okay, so we're gonna make a little bit of a move here.
Okay.
We probably want that to be a little bit higher.
Okay.
I'd probably want to be seeing it closer to like 10.
Okay. So
On
add more
that.
grains.
And so I think so the nice thing is because we can maintain our temperature, we could just add some more base malt to it.
Yeah.
And then start that recirc again. So we can open this up, and then we can give a little bit of a stir.
Okay.
Let me pull this completely. I'll set this here. Yeah, we can use some of that. We can just pull that, and then okay, so the cool thing is, let me grab my camera. You can see that this wort right here is starting to clear up. It's a little cloudy, but you can see the grain pretty clearly right there.
Yep.
And so that means if it were not converted, that would be hazier.
Okay.
It would be more starchy. But this is converting, all right? I've got a hunch that we're gonna need a little bit more grain. So let's go ahead and add that. Here more. Yeah, let's stop right there. All right, let's get that incorporated. And then we'll run that recirc a little bit more. That thing is thickening up a little bit. So we are doing a few things on the fly here, ladies and gentlemen. It's the first time that we've used the system, so you know. Sweet. Okay, so go ahead and get that grain out of there. And then we can get that back. I'm going crazy with the camera here, folks. All right, we'll give it another 15.
Okay.
And we'll see where we're at. We'll test that gravity again. And then, yeah, what you can do is you can take the hydrometer, or not the hydrometer, the refractometer.
Refractometer.
Rinse it off in the sink.
Okay.
Just that front end of it.
Yeah.
And just make sure it's just all water, and then you can dry it off with the towel.
Okay.
So we did hit the sink. I'm leaning so much here, folks. Does it look crooked?
Is this for testing the optical density?
We did add a little bit more
wanna-
base
you
malt
wanna-
to this,
you
try
can
to
do it
bump
next
that
time.
density up. I'm hoping that I didn't do that a little too prematurely,
Yes.
based on the amount of
mean,
rest
he's a
time and everything. But
professional. He's
we're
got
feeling
all
our
the
way through the
toys.
process. All right, man. So let's do what we did last time. Let's kill this pump. Do you want to grab that the refractometer? Because we'll take another little sample there. And let me see if I can get a little liquid on there. And then what that'll do is, and then because there's sugar in this, it'll refract. 10.5. There you go. I hate to sound, so technically I do this for a living, but so I hate to sound surprised when something works out, but we nailed that. So
Experience is the best teacher.
we need to figure out our sparge water. And so we're gonna need Ben to figure out what our next move is, because we have to get creative with this. And because his stovetop doesn't work. And so what I think we're gonna do is, I can get 2 quarts in this, and we're gonna have to start microwaving water, I believe. So, and we only have to get it up to like, if we got it up to 150, 160, we would still probably be fine. We'll just microwave it if that's, because we're getting close to sparge now. So what I'm gonna do is, I am gonna mash this out. I am gonna restart this pump.
Okay.
And
Yeah, it was really a freak accident last night. I was making some pasta in my
yeah, that's
stove,
wild.
just like I heard a boom, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And I looked down, and there's massive cracks running through my stove. I was like,
That is no good, man.
yeah.
And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna heat this up
Yeah.
for like this mash out type set.
Okay.
We can increase this temperature, the set point. We're gonna take it up to 162.
And do you mind after this sending me what your times were for
Sure.
like each of the mash
Absolutely.
steps? Okay. Yep.
It was really a 15-minute rest on the first portion, and then we took a sample.
Yeah.
And then we did another 15 minutes, and this is where we're at right now.
Okay, yep.
So really, I mean, this thing has probably been mashed in for like 45 minutes at
Yeah.
this point. Our reef rack is perfect. We're at 10 and a half right now,
Oh, perfect.
which is beautiful. So that's in a really good spot. We're gonna heat this up. Let's start getting 2 liters
Yeah.
at a time of this microwaved.
Okay.
So we can use the spring water, whatever.
Yeah.
We have to microwave our sparge water.
Where are we at right now?
I actually stole that. We're starting to mash out, so we're starting to raise the temp up to that higher range. And then when we hit that range, we're going to let it be there for a few.
And what do we want this at? Like 170, you said?
Yeah, we can get it around there. I do have a pretty convenient
Yeah, Max, my
quick
stove
read
last night cracked.
one here.
Were you?
Okay, so we're about to lift this basket up and allow that to start draining through into kind of the Anvil now kettle portion, right? We're gonna pull that, let that drain, and then we are going to sparge with some hot water on top of that. I have half the sparge water ready right now, but I'm gonna want to see my volume after we kind of get rolling with everything. So we'll see. I'm gonna pull this recirculation arm right now, and you can see that I do have the valve closed. Hey Ben, you can actually lift this basket. I do think you're gonna want like a hot plate or something. I mean, you know, something to put between you and the handle. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna lift this up really slowly. You can set that right over here if you want. It is gonna be filtering and draining through the bottom here. So just go ahead and lift that slowly, and you should have the liquid coming out. And then one of these is going to have a little hook on it. Yep, there's one there and right here. Boom, right there. Awesome. And then we're gonna let that drain. You can kind of hear it doing its thing in there. Can you see a little liquid in there? And then we can slide that down, pull that, and it's exposing this grain bed. And then sometimes that doesn't pour really pure. Sometimes it likes to kind of spill a little bit from the nozzle, so just be careful. And then try to pour it kind of all across the surface of it. And you might have to slide, yeah, all the way in like that. Yep. Just so you're not dripping everywhere. And just kind of pour that all the way across the surface. And that's the sparging function that we have going on here. We're further rinsing color, flavor, and sugar out of this malt. And then now we're gonna let this kind of drain through, and then I'm gonna check the volume that we have in here, and we're also gonna look at the gravity of it as well to see how much more we need or want to sparge, okay? And I'll keep you in the loop as we do that. Ben just asked about the heat intensity on this, which is on 100% right now. I have seen that sometimes people will run that at a lower intensity when they're doing that recirculation, because the science behind it is what's going on is enzymatically the enzymes inside the malt are converting the starch to sugar. Enzymes all have temperature points that they like to work in, and then they also have points where they become denatured. Okay, so if you raise that temperature too high, you're going to denature those enzymes, and then they won't have the ability to convert the starch to sugar. Okay. So if you're heating too hard down here, you could potentially be denaturing the enzymes that are on the bottom portion of this. Mm-hmm. And so if you drop the intensity of this, And it might even say in the manual to specific ranges.
Yeah.
But yeah, that can be something that you can watch there.
Okay.
We're fine because we got our full conversion. We actually did get conversion.
Yep.
And we were actually using 100%, by the way. But yeah, the recommendations might be to run it a little bit lower just so you can get full conversion, which we did. But yeah, you can go up and out with this. Do you want me to hold the bag under you?
That would be great. And I will just do this.
Yeah, sweet, man.
Perfect.
Awesome. Then let's get a shot inside this kettle. I'm gonna lid it up here in just a second. But I do have it set to 205. Right now it's at just about 170. I have the power at 100%. Reason being is it's the first time I'm using this. I wanna make sure that everything is as safe as possible. I don't wanna be throwing so much heat at it that it could potentially boil over. I could let it hit the set point and then tick it up from there. I'll probably put it up to 210 after this to see what level this wants to boil at with this device. It's just all a safety outlook on it. So anyways, I'm gonna put the lid on and we're gonna keep heating. Oil side. So what I've been doing with this is I've been tracking a few things. I did leave it at 100%. I did set it to boil. What I didn't wanna see was, you never know how true everything is. The last thing you want is this thing to boil over and to stain stuff up or worse off, burn you.
Yeah.
So I was very gentle with it, ramping it up. I set it to 205 at first, let it get up to there, and then I just kind of slowly walked it up to 212.
Okay.
So that's where we're at right now. We do have a rolling boil. We are rolling here boil-wise, and we are going to be using, I'm a little foggy, we are using a little bit of Fuggles here, and you can go ahead and bust those open. We're going to be splitting those up, and so we are going to do this hop addition, about half of that. We're going to put about a ½ ounce in there, and this 60-minute addition, we're going to be driving some of our baseline bitterness with. And then we're going to be using the last ½ ounce a little bit later in the boil with about 10 minutes left just to get a little bit of hop flavor, a little bit of hop aroma in there, just something nice and subtle. But you can see those hops have incorporated right up. We're going to keep that boil rolling. We're going to set a timer for 50 minutes, 50, because that's when our last hop addition and when our immersion chiller is going in, and we're going to keep rolling. Do you have any questions with where we're at? Okay.
Looking great.
It's pretty
straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward. I think we will build this out a little bit closer to the end,
Okay.
where that slides right in. This hose attaches on that, and we'll be able to set up the whirlpool. So, awesome, man. So, we're going to be running this Kveik strain today from our friends at Lallemand, and it's the Voss. So what's interesting about these yeast strains, and people pronounce it different ways, I say Kveik, it's a family of ale strains that has kind of progressively over generations mutated, adapted to work in a different way than what typical ale yeast do. It handles different temperature ranges far better. Like typically I would be fermenting ales in the brewery around 68 degrees. You can rip this at 90.
Okay.
Like it's a totally different animal in that way. In that way, remember earlier we were talking about healthy yeast, the right volume, the right temperature. This has parameters, but it's way more forgiving. Okay. So this is a really forgiving, and for like a non-temp controlled, so that's like not jacketed or anything to cool it or anything like that. So it would be a good fit for something like that, I think. So we'll use this. I'll actually toss this in the Star San that you have over there, and then when we're ready to use it, we'll just cut it, and then we'll be able to sprinkle it in and go from there. Awesome. And we could actually build out this fermenter. Do you want me to show you how I would build out this fermenter?
Yeah.
And I'll show you how I would handle this, because we have all clean equipment. Typically, what I would do is when I'm doing this, I would throw gloves on, just to make sure. You can also have clean hands and ISO up, or not ISO, I would use ISO in the brewery. When you have the equipment clean already, all we need to be able to do is get sanitizer on that surface. What I do like about Star San is you can get it on there, it foams, you can get quality contact time with it, and then you can just dump it prior to doing your thing. So I'm just going to be, you could fill this completely as well.
Yep.
That's another option as well. Or you could just go ahead and utilize the spray portion. And so I'm just going to spray this all generously in here. And then we already have our lid and everything else in there that was making contact in the kind of soak that we have going on. So I'm going to make sure everything on the interior, and then I'm also going to make sure that I have the entire portion of this filled as well. I have it shooting through there as well. I'm going to rotate this and spray. Make sure that I hit the top portion of that racking port as well. And then let's build it out the rest of the way. You can pull your lid out of this. Yep. And then we can level out the amount of Sani that we have in that.
Not trying to make any money off of that. Would make this fun, I don't think.
That's what this guy charges.
Is that in there?
Essentially cost for the table.
All right, and so this is really buttoned up. And so, whoop!
Too slick.
But we can drain this when we're ready to get wort in there.
Yeah.
And then we'll be good to go.
Okay, perfect.
And so we can just let this kind of sit. I would also, yeah. Where would you like to rest it right now? I don't know if you want it sitting there or if you want it somewhere else.
Set it somewhere.
Okay, that works for me. So yeah, we're gonna want to get the chiller in, and then we won't turn the water on until we want to start taking temperature out of the wort. Right now, we still want 10 more minutes worth of boil in there. So this is the section that's gonna go over to the sink. And so you can just feed that, you can just drop this right in here, and we can slide it over if need be. But we'll do that once we maybe kill the boil, and then we'll just reset the hose. So yeah, that'll go in, and then you can add those. Yep, and then you can actually plop those hops in right now. So that lasts that 10-minute hop strike, and then go ahead and set that in there. Do you want me to, do you want to?
We'll do this for right now.
Okay.
Do you want it to sit all the way down in there?
That's as far as it'll go in.
Okay.
And then we'll slide, do you want to, maybe we'll slide it? Do you want to be, yeah. Boom.
Perfect.
We didn't die. Okay, so you can see that we've got the immersion chiller in, getting that sanitized with heat. And then we also have this pump built out a little differently now. We have it built up to the, what was this arm called?
The swirly.
The swirly, which is a whirlpool that you can attach to the side of this. It's pretty slick. It's really just like this big kind of plastic nut here that kind of creates tension, and it holds it in place pretty well. And then you just detach this portion that we were using during the recirculation Vorloff, and you just attach it to here. And then we can run that whirlpool once we're done with the boil. What I have going on is, because the lower volume of wort that we have in here right now, I do have the chiller tipped so we can get more surface area in contact with the liquid. As you kind of dial the system in and figure out how much more you can be putting in, you would obviously be having more contact.
Yeah.
But I'm also leveraging the whirlpool right now. So, and it's gonna help drop temperature on it faster. So, and I'm not ripping it, because you can see it's just a gentle circulation around it, right? It's just to keep the warm wort moving across those coils. I think now is a really good time that I would take this. Do you want to grab that spray bottle with the Star San in it? Like I mentioned before, I just like to give a little drape, give it a little dusting, and then just kind of we can just set it over the top there. That's great. It's just going to limit the amount of potential stuff that can drop. Yep. And then we can leave that tented up. We have our water rolling, our hot water rolling through, well, cold water running through, coming out hot or warm. At least we're going to get this cooled down. And then what I think is we're going to end up using this whole rig, right, for transferring into, yep. So now might be a great time. You could take the fermenter, pull the stopper out, and go over the sink or even over the bucket and just turn it upside down and just drain the remaining sanitizer that's in it. This is nice that there's the internal thermometer on this.
Yes.
So you don't have to be worried about sanitizing a thermometer and sticking it in there like it's already. It is funny, like the number of things that I had to do with my kind of my kind of piece together system that I wouldn't have to do with this. It's interesting. And even just little stuff like that, like having a clean and sanitized thermometer because I used to test it, then take it and spray it off and wait and then test it, and with the internal thermometer, it's nice. So it's not bad, it's down to 122 right now. That Kveik strain that you're using has a lot of flexibility. And so we'll try to take it as low as it can go. My guess is it's going to want to get to about 70, which is perfectly fine temperature to be able to pitch that yeast.
Okay.
And then I would look at the manual when it talks about the pump and maintenance. My hunch is that you are going to be able to want to get the liquid PBW pumped through here, through there.
Yep.
And then I would probably want to run that so the nice thing is you could get a gallon of water in there, put your tablespoon or whatever it recommends in there, just start recirculating it, and then you could use the heating element on it to heat that up, get it up to like 120, 130, look at the temperature range on that, and then you could just pump it through.
Yeah.
And so that way, I would give it a good 15 minutes running through this pump.
Yeah.
But then, when you're done pumping it through there, you can use that same PBW with a soft scrubby, because what this will do is this will build a little bit of a film. Sounds like microbiological, but yeah. Yep. So and so just keep that bright with something like that, and you're gonna be in really good shape.
Barkeeper's Friend is actually a good way to
Okay.
take care of the inside of this. I was watching some of the videos, so I think I might use that as well.
Sure. Yeah, whatever they recommend with it, absolutely.
Treating the stainless steel,
Yeah, it knocks it down. So a couple things to remember is you do have a hot and a cold side on this.
Yes.
So because there was a time where when I was cooling bigger batches, I didn't have a pump recirculating gently, and so I would actually stir with the chiller to kind of increase the rate of cooling.
Right.
It would always catch me, well, not always, it had caught me off guard a few times. One is cold and the other one's hot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's cold going in, hot coming out. So
Exactly.
yeah. Well, and if anything, hopefully this will be like a good trial on the whole thing.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I can totally give you notes and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. This was very useful to see how the different equipment worked. I mean, you've never used it, but it was kind of like a fun little learning experiment to.
Well, we can try to keep this as closed of a process as possible.
Through the top.
Yeah. And so what I think we can do is, and I can take this clamp off here now. This valve is closed right here. So I believe that we could slide this up and then
amplified that in.
So as you go through it,
It's the whole point, basically, the rabbit hole.
yeah, the rabbit hole. Like how messed up is messed up, and then like continue going. The match play, there's like a fight, and then you have to figure out how the fight's gonna go.
Now I think we can just open that and start pumping our liquid in.
You can hear it.
Oh, our valve is closed, right?
Yes.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because that would be embarrassing. So by leaving the lid on and just pulling the stopper, this is a great way to go because you're minimizing the volume of open space and into your sanitized surface, right?
Yeah.
And then what we're going to want to track is, and if you want to hold this, I'm going to try to see where this is going to knock this out pretty quickly. I'm going to kind of chug through it, kill there. All right, and then you can grab your yeast and your scissors, both out of the sanitizer. You can snip that, and then you can pour that yeast right in there. And then you can just go ahead and put your thing right back in there.
So what was the specific gravity? I didn't see that.
We can take a test on it, but it's probably going to be in the 1047, 1050 range with the amount of boil off that we had. Yeah, that's the way. I love just dropping it right back in the Sani. That's great. Yeah. Sweet. So then you're good there. I would leave this out just a little bit because Star San is slippery.
Yeah.
And as we saw before, I shot this out of here myself.
Yep.
And so just make sure everything's staying in place there.
Okay.
This yeast strain is very vigorous. So again, it's this Kveik strain that we're using. And it's very vigorous. Have you ever had a boil off, a blow off?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you do have a blow off scenario, it looks like you have some different sizes of tubing. You can clean, sanitize, and actually just shove into the bung here, and then it would actually, you just have a container that it's blowing off into.
Okay.
That's an option.
Okay.
If you're kicking up a bunch of yeast and stuff up into your bubbler here,
Yeah.
up into your airlock. Again, you can pull samples off this with the amount of yeast you have, with the volume of wort you have, and how quickly that's probably going to ferment out. I think on what day is it? Saturday?
Yeah.
Next Saturday, I would draw, again, after applying with the spray bottle sanitizer there, taking a small sample, testing your gravity, and testing again the next day.
Okay.
If it's consistent both of those days, then you're looking at a situation where you can look at packaging. But you want consistent gravity for 2 days.
Okay.
Okay? All right, hey everybody, that's a wrap on our brew day. First of all, I want to thank Ben and the guys for being such good hosts. It was a lot of fun turning out that brew day, and it was great working with that Anvil system. I have tons of links in the description. Make sure to check out my friends at Anvil and Blickman, and make sure to leave any questions or comments down below, anything that may have come up during the video. For those of you that don't know, I have tons of brewing content on YouTube, a bunch of pro side stuff. Click the playlist tab and you can see tons of pro side brew days and a bunch of other fun stuff. If you're interested in content like this, please make sure to like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff. And I also have a bunch of content going on Instagram and short videos across all platforms, so check me out. Anyhow, hope you have a great day and happy brewing.